Paul Bogle was born in 1822. By the time slavery was abolished in 1838, he was 16 years old. Paul Bogle was a central figure in Jamaican national life and spirit. He was a significant forerunner of independence and nationhood. He led a movement which in 1865 led to a war. That movement was struggling for the redefinition of Jamaican society, the redefinition and reorganizing of Jamaican society following the abolition of slavery in 1838. Slavery was abolished, but the slaveholders and their government remained in power. And their view was that the formerly enslaved people would be, they would be required to be menials. They would constitute the labor force and nothing else. That was the position. 1838 would change nothing substantially after slavery was abolished. They were given their freedom after 330 years of enslavement, without home, without a place to work, without anything, nothing. And that's what those who were in power wanted to continue after slavery. Bogle and his people had a movement to change that situation. The movement said, amongst other things, this freedom is not full freedom. This freedom is half of a freedom. And in fact, they had a slogan, and that slogan said, liberty of person, liberty of land. That is, if Black people are free from the chains that bind them to work without pay, so too must be the properties that they were working on. That those properties can't remain chained to those who enslave them. From the position of government and their policy, they rejected that view. Carlyle says, no Black man who will not work according to what ability the gods have given him for working has the smallest right to eat pumpkin, however plentiful such a land may be, but has an indisputable and perpetual right to be compelled by the real proprietors of said land to do competent work for his living. That's what he said. But that was also the position of the British government in Jamaica. So there was a meeting in St. Thomas by Paul Bogle's secretary. They want to combine now their free labor with somewhere to work with their labor to make their own living. In their explanation for what this free would mean is one who was able to work on his own account. One such person was Paul Bogle. He had land, he had horses, he had money in the bank, he had the right to vote, he had a business with George William Gordon. He belonged to an emerging class, the first Black middle class, self-made. Paul Bogle, they tried all sorts of peaceful means with his people to resolve this situation so that they can breathe. After 13 generations of not being able to do any of that thing, they had petitions, they kept meetings. They went to Spanish Town, the capital of Jamaica, 45 miles from Stony Gut. When they reached Kingston, they walked to Kingston. And when they reached Kingston, they took a train to Spanish Town. And when they reached the governor's office, soldiers turned them away. The governor refused to see them. And so they went back into St. Thomas and started to organize people in groups. And like Taki of 1760, began to have oath-taking ceremonies and military drills. The 10th of October, 1865, there was a tea meeting in Stony Gut, the home, the place where Paul Bogle lived. And there were over 400 persons from all over St. Thomas down there. Paul Bogle and his people, about 200 persons, went down to Morant Bay Courthouse the week before. And then they wrote another letter to the governor and gave it to a man to take it to Spanish Town, to the governor's office. That was received. That letter was received. Letter was signed by Paul Bogle and 4 other persons. And in this letter, they say, look here, man, 27 years we have been imposed on. The 27 years since slavery was abolished. These planters, these custodies, that these persons were making our life hell. We can't move. We can't get any headway. If you don't do anything about it, we will be forced to put our shoulders to the wheel. The custards of the parish wrote a letter to the governor, say, look here, you better send some soldier quick because war going to break out. And that clash took place on October 11, 1865, which people on both sides died. And then after that, all hell broke loose. They killed people. Even during that time, it was reported that they killed 1,500 people in 2 weeks. So they hung people, they shot people, they burnt down 1,000 houses. No other group of people in the Caribbean, in the British colonies in the Caribbean, no other group has paid so dearly for wanting their freedom. They killed the representative of the people in the parliament. The parliament then was called the National Assembly. It's just over 2,000 people in all of Jamaica had the right to vote based on your tax level. Paul Bogle was one of those persons. And the representative for his communities in St. Thomas in the East was a man named George William Gordon.